On the sidelines of the APEC summit and the IPEF, where Bharat's growth story is being talked about, there is the aspect where Bharat's story itself is being killed. A fight of narratives, ladies and gentlemen. And now I'm in conversation with two people who are in the thick of things, if I may say so. Indian roots, but born in the US and emergency room surgeon. So he's got a story of his own, but Mihir Mingani is also somebody who's championing the Hindu American Foundation or the HAF. So you're now getting into advocacy, but you've gotten into the thick of things of those who are trying to push these anti-Indian narratives. Sangeeta is also the regional director for California with the HAF. Thank you very much for your time. So let's get talking and let's look at the core issues. First up, why the Hindu American Foundation? What was the need for it? And you're born here in the US, so why did you feel the need to start this? I know Suhag Shukla is with you, so I must say that Suhagji is a regular on the right stand on my show, but she's not here, but yes, Mihir.
Yeah, I think, Anandji, thanks again for having us, and, greetings for belated Diwali for all the viewers. I come from a background, a patriotic background. My parents came from India in 1969. My great-grandfather was a Gujarati poet, Zaverchand Meghani, and then Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhiji was a distant relative as well. But growing up in this country, I realized that we had many organizations that were doing religious work, temples. We had many gurus that were focusing on spirituality. And there were organizations back in the 70s, 80s sending money to India. But we didn't have anybody speaking to American policymakers, legislators, journalists, and others about who we are as Hindus, not just as individuals, but who we are as a 5,000-year-old civilization, the oldest large civilization still remaining that's kept most of our religion and culture intact, with an uninterrupted history and connection to the land of Bharat and to our religion, which we can call Sanatan Dharma or Hinduism. And so when I went through my younger days, growing up in this country, going to Hindu youth camps, being involved in college and Hindu Students' Council and other Hindu groups, we realized we needed to set something up, and the established groups didn't want to. So 20 years ago, we set up the Hindu American Foundation to be a voice for Hindus in America, but also to be a voice for Bharat, our civilization, in the country which is the most powerful country in the world, which is the United States. That's basically, in short, the history of why HF was founded. We were committed that if we wanted to do justice to this 5,000-year-old civilization, millions of Hindus who died to protect all of us in India, regardless of our religious background or what religion we are, to practice our beliefs in freedom, to live in democracy, for all the sadhus and others who kept our traditions alive, we needed to have a professional voice. We can't be a professional voice for 1.4 billion Bharatiyas, for 1.4 billion Hindus, unless we professionalize it. I can't come home from the hospital at 7 p.m. and say, I'm going to be on email for 90 minutes and the work's done. So we committed that we wanted a professional group. 20 years later, we have around 18 staff. We have a budget of $2.5 million. We're going to get to $5 million. And we have a lot more work to do. And we have great staff members like Sangeeta on our team.
So one of the recent challenges, so let's come, he's talked about the history a bit, and that takes a lot of commitment. You've just pledged some more money we're given to understand, so you're increasing the entire corpus of this caucus, if I may say, to about $5 million. But one of the recent challenges has been the SB403. Now, who's pushing this? What's the narrative? And how were you able to, get it vetoed?
Yeah. So, basically, SB403 was introduced sometime back in February, and it was introduced in the California Assembly by a freshman senator, Aisha Wahab, and it has the support of a for-profit organization called as Equality Labs. And, I came to know about it as a regular citizen. I have a HR background prior to joining HAF, and I'm also been a homeschooling parent. I am a mother of 2 girls myself. And so when I came to know through the community that there is a bill that's being introduced here in California, which insinuates that everybody from South Asia always has a caste lens when they are in the workplace or when they are interacting with community members, I was beyond shocked. I still remember the first night I heard it and I couldn't sleep because we as immigrants come to this country to build a good life for ourselves, especially those of us from South Asia. We come here for higher education. We contribute immensely to the universities here. I myself came for my master's. and then we are, top producers in our communities, whether it's our businesses or our industries that we work in. And suddenly, out of the blue, somebody is coming and saying that each and every one of you is a casteist, and you are only looking at everybody else through a caste lens, and that we are either oppressors or oppressed.
So this caste lens was limited only to the Hindu caste groups, or did this Aisha Wahab and the Equality Labs also highlight Ismaili, Sunni, Shia, and all the other sects as far as Islam is concerned, or the about 30 odd different sects and castes which are there in Christianity is concerned?
Yeah.
Was this across religions, or was this largely framed towards it is the Hindus' work? They say South Asia, but their focuses on Bharat.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. The language of the bill, while it was specifically saying South Asia, implicitly it would have been the Hindu groups that would have got affected. And you might ask how, right? Because in California and many other states within the country, the very first time anybody reads about Hinduism is in the 6th standard history textbooks when world religion is introduced. And if you look at the textbooks, while they do give a fair share of what the contributions of Christianity and Islam and all of the religions have beautifully contributed to art and technology and science and humanities, Hinduism is this pyramid, top-down pyramid, with the Brahmins at the top, the Dalits at the bottom, and Hinduism is equal to the caste system. So, what I'm trying to say is, most of the people here in this country know about the Hindu faith through the textbooks that they have studied in the school system, or through media, which limits Hinduism to cow, caste, and curry. Right?
So the curry boys, curry girls, the slurs that have happened in the past.
Exactly.
So that's how the association.
Yes.
But this is devious, isn't
Yes,
it,
it
Sangeeta?
is.
So if I can bring Mihir, now you realized who are these Equality Labs? Who are these Aisha Wabs? Is she an Indian? Is she born somebody? And is she a victim of this? There are some other elements and other people also limited. Who's backing them, and why did they suddenly decide to do it here? There must be a why for all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for all our viewers who are in Bharat and India, we have to realize that while the nation has come far in 30 years in terms of tremendous economic growth, being a global and regional player for peace, the only country that could have passed a resolution with Russia, China, United States, and EU, and Ukraine all agreeing on language. India's come far. And so when forces against Bharat cannot destroy India militarily, politically, or economically, they're going to start attacking at the fringes of the civilization. And that's in places like the United States. They'll do it through city council resolutions and laws because they want to keep that attack on. And I think for everyone in Bharat, you know about this because when Pakistan, for example, has not been able to defeat India on the military battlefield, they've supported terrorism.
Yeah.
The forces that came together over the last decade, that have come together and that were together here on this bill, are the same ones that the community has been fighting for the last decade. These are terrorist elements. Majority of Sikhs are totally pro-India, but there's a segment, the Khalistanis, we all know about, who have joined together with some Christian evangelical groups. They've joined together with some anti-India Muslim groups and India's extreme left groups to come together and every few years raise a new issue that only seeks to further defame the name of our civilization, India, to defame Hinduism and divide the Indian American community here. We have to realize that this is going to continue because India's not going to disappear as a great civilization. We're back to where India was 300-400 years ago when it was at the top of the world. India won't be defeated militarily. India's not going to be defeated politically. It's too important. So people who want to attack are going to attack in places where they have some sort of a voice. And America, unfortunately, has provided them space like that. And you can see these same forces are coming together, for example, against Israel. They're not standing up with Armenia, another ancient civilization that's our ally here.
So this is a civilizational game. So and that's why it will happen at the grassroots and the attacks will happen there. Now you've successfully been able to counter it because there are different people who've been working at different levels to do it. How are you further organizing ranks, Sangeeta? Are you working with other cohorts or other groups which are coming together? Because largely one of the criticisms is that Hindu groups everywhere are splintered. So within their own community itself, they have some 600 different associations. So how are they all going to come together? So is that happening now? Is there an organizing of ranks that's happening?
So this is a great question, and I think all of us will agree that SB403 has been a big blessing in bringing the Hindu community together. And in this sense, HAF has very actively worked with all the other Hindu organizations and has really reached out not just across the Hindu community, but across all interfaith communities as well, including the Jewish, the Sikhs, the Buddhists, the Jains, the Christians, the Muslims, non-Hindus, non-white, non-browns, everywhere, because we are a part of this country. I identify myself as a Hindu American, right? And so within the Hindu community, we have gone across various sampradayas, various temples. We have told temples that you need to start speaking up, right? And also just basically telling everybody that this is not about what particular aspect of Hinduism you believe in, but this is after your very identity as a Hindu. And if you do not stand up right now, then the biggest loss is that 2 generations down the line, our kids will not want to do anything with their faith, right? I mean, living and raising families alone is difficult enough in any part of the world. But if somebody is going to go after you in terms of your faith, 2 generations down the line, why would my grandchildren ever want to do anything with the Hindu faith, right? So that was a very big, like an alarm bell for many Hindus across the society. And also, in SB403 very rawly touched the professionals.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, it did. It did.
It was really
Suddenly you're being
about-
educated
yeah.
and they're trying to hold classes and to
exactly.
and the entire Cisco case happened.
Yeah, and if you see, it came right after the tech recession. I myself was affected by it. My last job, my position was eliminated. And then in my husband's case, he got to keep the job, but his team got fired, right? And so he had to basically do a lot of work. So by the time February the bill was introduced, most tech people, Indian Desis, Desi Americans, Hindu Americans, were working 60-hour plus, jobs, right? And so on top of this, somebody's coming and telling you that this will also be taken away from you because you're always looking at everybody else as a caste lens. I think in a way it was the biggest blessing because you could no longer hide behind your specific, sampradaya or whatever is it that
I don't want to get involved. I just want to do my job, live my life, and chase the American dream. So, but that dream itself was being threatened. But yes,
right. But I want to add something. I do want to thank people in India for their support in SB403. When Sangeeta talked about this coalition that came together, we had leaders, Kashmiri Muslim leaders like Javed Beg, Yana Mir, Sajid Yusuf from Kashmir who wrote to the Board of Education supporting us. We had Sikh leaders across the world, Malayali Christians writing in. So this is not just Hindus against anti-India forces. This is the community coming together because
so it just became Hindustani, if I may say.
That's right.
Coming
That's
against
right.
all those who are trying to have a narrative against Hindustan.
That's right.
One of the biggest things was, and I was talking to Patek, Suresh Krishnamurthy and Rajiv of Kohana, and they said that this organizing of ranks has become an issue and advocacy because the other side, which is inimical to Bharat, has got deep pockets and they're organized. There's somebody funding them and there's money coming in and that's what is, and here lobbying, advocacy is legal. So a lot of the support or a lot of the endorsement of voices are being bought. So are we working on that actively? So let me get final 2 questions. So
Sure, absolutely. And I'll say as one of the board members and co-founders of the Hindu American Foundation, we've been committed that we need to create a professional voice. We can't represent 1.4 billion people on a part-time basis. That's not how other successful advocacy communities do it. Christians have 1,000 groups with offices in Washington, D.C. advocating for their purpose. There are about 100 Jewish groups in America's capital advocating for Israel and the global Jewish community. There are 3 Khalistani groups in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
There are about 50 Muslim groups. So we've been committed to that. And I think that I can say that we do need multiple advocacy groups for India and Hindus, but HF is quite far ahead because we've been here for 20 years. We have that track record. We have a very professional staff set up. And between the board members of HF, I know you referred to the donation we gave, we've put in our own money, $4 million, into the group over 15 years. My wife and I have given $1.5 million to the Hindu American Foundation. And I think it's fair to say that the largest second generation Indian American donation for our civilization is the one we're giving right now. We're pledging $1 million to HAF and a total of $1.5 million over the next several years for pro-India advocacy for our civilization. And we're setting this up so that our future generation has a strong voice going forward.
Now, how much of this, and my final question between the two of you, how much of this has been influenced or has helped with what Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his government have done in the last 9 years? And also, is there a positive sentiment towards Bharat and the growth story that you see within the industry, policy, politics, administration, across the board? So, Sangeeta and then Mihir. Okay. Mihir.
Yeah, what I'll say is, we're a nonprofit in the U.S. We're not involved in, politics in terms of who gets elected. But what we will say is that it's very clear that the prestige of India has come up dramatically, and it's not just because of things that are said on the campaign trail. But as I mentioned earlier, India put together a resolution that brought together all these countries in the world that are literally at war with each other on Ukraine. India hosted the G20 successfully. India is looked at as a peacemaker, between the Middle East and Israel, or between various Southeast Asian countries and China.
The global South bringing together.
That's right. And
standing up for the African Union also.
African Union, yeah. And India's not an aggressor. When you look at a country of the size of India, you would expect that it's going to push its military might. Nobody feels threatened militarily by India. That's very different than China or Russia, or even how some people might look at some of the European countries in their history of the last 100 years. India's not invading anybody. India's not forcefully converting anyone to their religion. India doesn't have blasphemy laws like Pakistan does, right? And India's a strong democracy, much better than many others. And wherever people from India have gone in the world, they've contributed positively.
Yeah, to those economies.
They've contributed positively. There's no Indian in the world right now that's a terrorist. And India's supporting human rights. India's CAA was to help refugees. Well, what did Pakistan do? They're sending those refugees back to Afghanistan, and they're going to die.
They're booting them out, literally.
So the prestige of India as a civilization's gone up, and the soft power that India now has, with Prime Minister Modi, for example, elevating International Yoga Day to a global status. That's the soft power of a civilization that understands there's more than just pushing military might. It's about holistic health. There's so many actors and actresses from Hollywood who are following gurus from India.
Correct.
Okay?
Yes,
Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, Sadhguru. You have the Robbinsville BAPS temple that opened up, the largest religious place in the United States, carved by hand. You have a Hindu temple being carved by hand in Hawaii. That's a Shaivite temple. So our growth story is going to continue economically and in terms of a civilization. Now it's up for each person in India to think of themselves as a brand ambassador for the country.
Correct. So, and you're also saying that the posture has to be an attacking defense posture. So that means we are going to be armed to counter narratives or to, annul or cull narratives, just to protect what we're doing, not because we want to annihilate somebody else. So that's a fantastic philosophy that you talked about.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to everything that Mihir said. And I think one big thing that has really highlighted India's progress recently has been just the fantastic way by which we dealt with the COVID pandemic, right? Most people had already written off India, saying that it's a country of billions. What are they going to do? And look at how the Modi government and the current government really pulled itself out of the pandemic. And not just that, but went out of the way and actually contributed so many vaccines to so many other countries, right? We produced our own indigenous vaccine that was just amazing, and we have never done that before. So that really, I think, brought the world's attention to India. And secondly, I really agree with Mihir that, wherever we go, we are always brand ambassadors of our culture, right? Like whenever I celebrate festivals or any of our stuff, I always invite our, neighbors, right? Everybody loves our food. Indians are known to be productive members in the industry, in the universities. We are everywhere, and people generally look at us as fun people with whom they can have fun, whether it's through Bollywood, whether it's through food, or whether it's through professional associations, right? You will hardly come across a person who will actually complain about an Indian neighbor being nasty or doing things that are not contributing to the community. And another big thing that I would like to highlight is because of our dharma, or in general, the Indian culture of always giving back. right, of having unconditional love. Wherever we go, we always contribute back to the communities that we are in, either through charity or through many hours of volunteer work.
Right.
So even currently with Diwali, we have an organization called a Seva Diwali here. You might know about
Yes.
Seva International, right? Having an entire month of donations,
And service.
donation
Yeah.
drive where we contribute like thousands of pounds of non-perishable food and other stuff to the local food banks here, which is going to everybody, not just Hindus, not just Indians, right? So generally that's how we are known in the communities, and this is across the world.
No, no, phenomenal. Yeah.
I
Final word.
wanted to add a final word, Sangeeta. In addition to what you said about us feeling proud about India, I want people in India to realize we're both U.S. citizens, and I was born in this country. But whenever India has a great achievement, we are there to celebrate. Many of us stayed up all night watching the moon landing, watching spacecraft go to Mars, watching India's recent cricket victories. Our social media channels are filled with all the achievements India's making in sports. The women who led the vaccine war. So I think all of you in India should realize that you have a team that's rooting and cheering with you along, because even though we may not be citizens of India, we are citizens of the civilization that you all live in.
No, phenomenal. What a way to end this. So citizens of a common civilization sitting together somewhere in and around the vicinity of San Francisco, just about an hour's drive. Wonderful. Mihir and Sangeeta speaking with you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you.